Several months ago, I made a video ranking all of the top-end Adidas boots from worst to best, and you guys really enjoyed it. Since then, they've replaced most of those models that I've talked about, so I kind of felt the need to make the same video again. However, I have taken note that tier list videos are very popular these days, and I kind of enjoy them myself, and I also feel like the tier list system actually makes a lot of sense for ranking football boots from high tier to low tier. So with that in mind, here's my tier list for Adidas football boots. And yes, I will be making this Adidas tier list video while wearing a Nike shirt. Thank you for noticing. If you guys do end up enjoying this video and perhaps would like to see me make other tier lists for other football boot brands, don't forget to support this one with a like. And if you're new here watching for the first time and don't want to miss out on future content from me, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. Please keep in mind that this tier list is based on my own personal experiences and my own personal opinions on all of these football boots. Also, I'm planning on ranking pretty much just the top end models, but I will throw in some low end ones that I think need to be on the tier list as well. So if you disagree with how I've ranked any of these boots, feel free to let me know your opinions on where they should be ranked down below in the comments. Oh, elbow crack. That hasn't happened in a long time. The X19 Plus, $275 for their flagship laceless speed boot that is a very similar design to the X18 Plus that it recently replaced, but also a lot better when it comes to fit and lockdown, which was my major complaint with that particular boot. Granted, I still feel that it's flawed in a lot of ways when it comes to just pure performance characteristics when compared to other speed boots out there, including some on offer from the Adidas brand, but it's a lot better than what we had before, and as a laceless speed boot option, pretty much being the only one I would say, it's actually pretty solid. It gets to be in the B class. It's B tier. I don't know how I screwed that up. The Copa 19.1 has kind of become the forgotten top-end model within the Adidas brand, and rightfully so to a certain extent. It's not a bad football boot by any means, but there's nothing distinctive or unique about it. Its best characteristic is definitely the soft kangaroo leather you get at the toe, as well as through the forefoot. It really is that nice, but the rest of the boot just feels kind of uninspired, and I guess lacking in a lot of categories. It's not particularly lightweight for a modern football boot. The stud pattern is truly nothing special. Same thing goes for the sole plate, and the burrito style tongue kind of feels a little bit unnecessary, and it makes for a very rigid, slightly stiff sensation through the midfoot because of this firmer kind of fused mesh material that they've used here. It's just nothing special, which is why I think it's D tier. The Predator 19.1, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, is a good boot that I just don't really care for that much. And that's because, again, kind of like the Copa 19.1, it doesn't have that much going for it that's particularly interesting. The prime knit upper is very soft, giving you that sock-like level of comfort, and honestly a great touch on the ball, but it's a Predator, and it doesn't really feel anything like what I picture or imagine a Predator to be. And I understand this is the return of the Predator, and it's not supposed to be like the old ones, but don't call it a Predator if that's the case. Continue calling it the Ace. That's what they should have done in the first place. Either way, this is the better version of the Predator in that it does incorporate the lacing system, which makes for better fit, better lockdown, better responsiveness, better comfort, better in pretty much every performance category that matters. It does not have the boost, but that doesn't matter anyways. And the sole plate and stud pattern, the control frame, I just don't think is that great. It feels like it's too big and bulky for what is a very thin, kind of a barefoot sensation that you get from the upper. Again, not a bad boot. I think it's very good looking, but for me, it can't be higher than C tier. The Nemesis 19.1 is one of those boots that really surprised me. I wasn't expecting too much from it based on the fact that the Nemesis line has really never been anything special from the beginning. But with this new generation, while the Plus has gone in a direction that is interesting, but probably not for the better of performance, the 19.1 truly is the best variation of the Nemesis so far, in my opinion. The tension tape upper feels really soft, it's comfortable, but it's also remarkably thin, offering the best touch and most consistent touch on the ball that we've ever had from a pair of Nemesis boots. And then the split sole construction that is kind of controversial. Some people are calling it a copy of Nike. It's definitely not that. Is actually really solid, and I think a little bit better than what we had before, although not that big of a difference. They're also relatively lightweight, nice and responsive. It's just a good boot overall. I also happen to like the way that they look, which is why, and this is kind of a tough one for me because I was in between A and B, but I think I'm gonna put it in A tier. Which leads us into the X19.1, what I would argue is probably the best performing football boot from the Adidas brand right now, and arguably my personal favorite as well. This is a slight redesign over the X18.1, which I was also a really big fan of, but the new speed mesh upper being a little bit more structured this time around adds the responsiveness that I really wanted from the X18.1 but did not have. It's nice and lightweight, it's remarkably comfortable, the traction is really solid, it's FG-AG as well, and it's nice and lightweight. I still don't think that the boot is quite as responsive and the traction isn't quite as aggressive as what you get from the top-end Mercurial boots, but because it's so much more comfortable than the Mercurials, at least in my opinion, I can put it on the same level. So I kind of have a hard time ranking this at S tier because I don't necessarily think that it's an S tier caliber boot. So I'm gonna put it at A tier, but tentatively. The Nemesis 19 Plus is one of the weirdest football boot designs of all time, but I'm not mad at it because I do applaud Adidas for trying something truly different in a football boot industry that's kind of all about copying each other. They haven't copied anybody with this particular design. That hasn't necessarily resulted in the best performing product, because I really feel like the main downfall of this boot is the laceless design that they've come up with that just doesn't provide good enough lockdown for $275. I feel like the lockdown is actually worse than the Nemesis 18 Plus that it replaces, but that's a matter of personal preference, and that's gonna vary from person to person depending on the shape of your foot. The touch on the ball is good, but I do feel like the design is kind of cluttered and maybe a little bit more clunky than it should be across the top of the foot. The split sole and the new stud pattern I think is really good, but for $275, I don't think it performs anywhere near as good as it should, which is why I have to put this in D tier. The Copa 19 Plus, simply put, at least in my opinion, is the best laceless football boot ever made. It truly is remarkable how this boot feels on feet, in that it's unlike anything else that I've ever tried. The kangaroo leather, super soft, really, really thin. The laceless system works well with what is ultimately more of a traditional boot in terms of touch on the ball, so I don't necessarily expect it to be overly responsive. It does still have its issues when it comes to general lockdown because of the laceless system, but the lockdown as a whole just seems to be a lot better on the Copa 19 Plus than all the other laceless options from the Adidas brand. It fits really nice despite being laceless, and like I talked about with the Copa 19.1, I'm not crazy about the sole plate and stud pattern, but I can live with it based on how good the upper is on this particular boot. Because of the unique experience that it has on offer, and because of the performance characteristics on offer as well, because there isn't anything else like it, I have to put this in S tier. The Predator 19.3 Laceless, which is a $100 laceless takedown model that I'm including because it's really, really bad. If you spend $100 on this, something's wrong with you, because there's just nothing redeeming about this boot at all, especially when it comes to the way that it fits because of this laceless system, utilizing only the cheapest of plastics and elasticated materials. This is F tier. The Glitch 2.0, which is still not available in all parts of the world. If you live in France, Germany, or England, you're in luck. You can go ahead and buy these through the Adidas Glitch app. If you live anywhere else, you'll have to resort to eBay, somebody reselling them for more than they paid most likely. Either way, this is, in my opinion, one of the most overhyped football boots on the market right now, simply because it gets a lot of attention based on its party trick, where the inside and the outside are two separate pieces. The inside basically having the liner, the laceless system, and the sole plate, and then the outside piece making up for the upper as well as the stud pattern. You can buy them as a set, you can buy them individually. It's not necessarily cheaper to do, but a lot of people are very into this, and admittedly, the Glitch has had some really cool colorways, this not being one of them. Either way, I feel like this is an overrated concept because it is basically the X17 Plus Pure Speed that is now discontinued, but a lot heavier, a lot stiffer, and just not as good in any way at all. But somehow people still think that this is an excellent idea. It's a cool concept, but it still hasn't really been well executed up until this point. Definitely not bad football boots, but certainly overrated in my opinion. They're C tier. The Nemesis 19.3 Laceless, another $100 laceless option from the Adidas brand that is a lot better than the Predators, but still not incredible, and certainly kind of a bad value if you're just after the best possible boots for $100. This is not what you should buy. However, if you really want to try out the laceless thing and you don't want to spend $275 on the Nemesis 19 Plus, I don't think that this is a terrible option. It's not a smart option, but it's also not terrible. E tier. The The Predator 19 Plus is one of those boots that a lot of people really like, and a lot of those people really enjoyed the Ace Pure controls. That's what brought them to the Adidas brand. So logically, they would like the Predator 19 Plus because it should be an Ace 19 Plus Pure control, but that's besides the point. This to me is one of those boots that, again, is very uninspired. I talked about the Predator 19.1. The 19 Plus is more expensive and laceless, but just worse in pretty much every single category, even heavier somehow, which I'm not sure how Adidas managed that. It obviously includes the laceless system, which I don't think is very good. The lockdown is just okay. And then it does incorporate the Boost insole, which is basically non-existent from a comfort and feel perspective. So cancel out that option. It's certainly not worth your extra money. For me, it's not a terrible boot, it's not unwearable, but it's just not anything special either. It's D tier along with the Nemesis. Which brings us to one of the most important football boots of all time, the OG Copa Mundial. They've been making it for a very long time now, and rightfully so. This is an S tier boot, and if you don't agree with that, you're wrong. And that's my tier list for Adidas football boots. If you guys enjoyed this video, perhaps would like to see more tier list videos on the channel, be sure to support this one with a like. That lets me know that you want to see more. If you have any questions regarding how I ranked these boots or any opinions of your own, feel free to ask all of that down below in the comments, and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you as soon as I possibly can. If you're not subscribed already, be sure to hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. All my social media information is linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.